So there are good tuners out there that can get on a laptop, that can dial in all your ignition timing, your air fuel ratios, your knock sensor. They can dial everything in. And then there's guys that can look at a spark plug just like this and can tell you whether or not your engine is running rich, too lean, and whether or not your timing is way off. Very interesting topic to discuss here today. Let's get right into it. I am one of those people that is using Honda to tune my 8th gen turbo Honda Civic. And I highly rely on the software to tell me whether or not my engine is responding properly to what I'm telling it to do. If I need more fuel, if I'm seeing that my oxygen sensor is telling me I'm running a 12.0 AFR and I want to run richer, I richen up the fuel table maps. And that's how I go about it. But there are some people, and old school mechanics will tell you, you can't trust a sensor. An oxygen sensor can go bad, it can give you false signals, and it can possibly over time and age not be as accurate as you think. This is where the old school guys that are into racing and have been building cars for years rely heavily on the spark plug themselves to tell you whether or not the car is running good. Yes, you're probably thinking the same thing I'm thinking. That sounds really complicated, and like me, I didn't even know you could tell anything from a spark plug other than if there's oil on it or not. But I guess a spark plug holds quite a lot of tales and truth behind it. So in this video, we're going to be taking out the spark plugs from the Turbo 8th Gen Civic. They are NGK's two-step colder plugs, and I've been running them probably here for about 12,000 miles in total. So let's take a dive and look at these spark plugs and see what we can learn from these spark plugs. So we took the spark plugs out. We checked the gap on them using a feeler gauge. So they are 32 thousandths gap, which is the factory BKR8 gap, and there's no issues with them at, you know, up to 5, 6, 7 pounds of boost. I had no issues with any misfires. Now the way to read a spark plug, there's 3 things you can read on a spark plug. One is the air fuel ratio. The second thing is the timing, if it's optimal or not, and then the last thing you can read is the spark plug temperature range. So I'm just gonna use one spark plug here for example. So the first thing you want to look at is the side of your spark plug. Now this has a lot of miles on it, but if you put a new spark plug in, you do a couple pulls, you're gonna see you know, heat build up and smog, soot come up on the sides of the spark plug here. So you want to see, you know, two of the threads be a little bit darker in color compared to the clean threads over here. Now that indicates the heat range of the spark plug. If you're using a colder spark plug and it's too cold, you might not get enough heat buildup in that spark plug. If you got a spark plug that you're running stock heat range and you're boosted and you're running more boost, you might see that heat range go a little bit higher, and it's recommended to go step down for the heat range. Now the second thing you can look at is this electrode, spark plug electrode hood. Now there's going to be a defined mark somewhere alongside this hood, and you can see like right over here it's white, and then it's a little darker right over here on this edge. Right at the corner of this hood at the elbow is where we have some discoloration, kind of on both sides, like it's a line like right over here. You can kind of see it, and this indicates your timing. Now The way you can read this is if your mark is towards the top of the hood, right over here, you see some discoloration. That means you're running with retarded timing. You can add a little bit more timing ideally, because you are pretty much very safe with your ignition timing. As you go from the tip of the hood down to the base of the hood, it's going to show you more and more timing advance. So optimal timing, they say, should be somewhere right around the middle of that hood. And as you're approaching the base of the hood where it meets the weld and the threads, that means you are probably too advanced. So again, the most ideal way to do this is do a couple wide open throttle pulls, shut the engine off right away, and inspect the plugs. That's going to give you the best plug readout. If you're just idling and cruising after a wide open throttle pull, it's going to diminish the accuracy of the readout here. But even if it diminishes a little bit, you could still get some data from the spark plug. So my timing marks look like they're right around here on the spark plug hood. So maybe I got another 2 to 3 degrees more that I could possibly advance it. But again, we don't want to push the R18 any further. And then the last thing is the actual porcelain. So this porcelain here has just a nice light brown coat all around it, which is kind of what you want to see. That indicates a good burn ratio for the air fuel. So that porcelain is actually what kind of shows your air fuel ratio in reading these spark plugs. And that porcelain piece here goes quite a bit deep up to this point. But the only real way, it's really hard to read these with the threaded portion here. So a lot of people will cut off the threaded portions, and you can really see if you're running rich or lean after wide open throttle pulls. I'm gonna post a picture or a video clip where the ideal marks are for running a proper air fuel ratio. So for example, let's just say this white piece was that porcelain, and you'll see black soot halfway through. The higher the black soot is on that porcelain piece, the richer you are. So ideally you want to have that black soot right at the base of that spark plug. Maybe 1 or 2 mils would be an ideal air fuel ratio. Again, the higher that black soot is, the richer you are, and you want to pull some fuel away. So reading spark plugs is not commonly done, and I'm kind of learning about reading spark plugs myself. When we pulled this spark out, we just wanted to see the health and condition of the R18, and I think it looks pretty good. Although one thing I'm considering is, they say with running E85, you don't really want to run colder spark plugs. And I've been running, this is I believe a 2-step colder spark plug, and with E85 that is not necessary because it might run cold. And I think this being white over here, I think it might be possibly running a little cold with the E85. All in all, I think these things are doing pretty good for the age, for the mileage, and for how the engine is running. Again, they have a nice golden brown color right in the center. The gap hasn't changed for those 12,000 miles that I have been running it. They are consistent. There is no misfires on the spark plugs, no blowout, and no oil fouling or fuel fouling, even though I'm running E85, so I'm pushing a lot more fuel through that cylinder, which can probably yield more cleaning of the spark plug itself. So that's something to keep an eye on. Eventually down the road, if I was a more serious engine builder, car racer, drag racer, then we can definitely cut the spark plug after we do a wide open throttle pull and just check how our AFRs look like. But until then, it just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense for me to just start cutting up plugs after each pull to check my AFR. But again, if you're serious about the sport and this is what needs to be done, by all means, it won't hurt to verify the spark plug. So what you're seeing on your ECU, on your Honda, on your Outtakes, whatever your software program is, matches visually with what the spark plug is telling you. I think it's a cool concept once again, and they say the spark plug is the telltale all sign of how your engine is doing, how much timing you can have. And again, every cylinder won't be the same, because even though your oxygen sensor can be telling you you're running a perfect air-fuel ratio, remember that air-fuel ratio comes from, for example, my car, 4 cylinders into a collector where they have your oxygen sensor. Yeah, your oxygen sensor may read the AFR correctly, but you're not really looking at each individual cylinder. One cylinder's air-fuel ratio or timing may be way off than the others, and that's where reading the spark plugs of one cylinder is going to be more optimal. And then you can tune or decrease timing on the other cylinders, again based on the ignition timing on the spark plug. Or for example, if one cylinder is running lean, once you do the inspection, you can increase fuel compensation just for that cylinder. And again, all this is just going to benefit you at the end, going to give you a more reliable vehicle, more consistent vehicle with the air-fuel ratios, ignition timing between each cylinder. So again, let me know, what do you guys think about this method? Have you done it on your vehicles? What is the perfect used spark plug look like? Jot those comments down below. I'll see you guys on the next video.
You can tell the torque right away, man. By one gear, you're already car length and fucking pulling, man. And I'm same start and everything, you know what I mean? Very nice. Sounds fucking sick, dude.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true.